with Sylvester Stallone, they should have just done what they did with Tim Burton and Batman Forever. They
Yeah.
gave Tim Burton a producer's credit. I guarantee he didn't do jack shit.
Oh,
but it
no
was
fucking way he did jack shit.
But they're kind of like, this is kind of like their, hey, sorry we fired you over McDonald's, but we're still going to get you a paycheck and you won't have to do anything. So it should have been like produced by and like the 5 names, and it should have been Sylvester Stallone at the bottom, i.e. sit at home, Sly. We're going to give you a $900,000 paycheck for doing nothing.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to be a little bitch. You know?
Oh, goody, goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Coyote, and my fellow co-host and filmmaker, John Woolscroft.
Adonis Creed is a paper champion.
He's a paper champion. He's not a paper champion. Come on.
He's got pillow muscles.
He's got pillow muscles. I pity the fool. No, it's not Rocky. What was that? 3.
Rocky 3. It's 3.
It's 3. Mr. T's the 3.
Yeah. Clubber Lang.
Oh man, that's a good one. That's a good one to hit one of these days. But anyway, we're on episode 263 and kind of arriving late to the party on this one, but you know, we had Leprechaun 3 to talk about, so you know,
we want to give people time to see it.
We wanted to give people time to see it. I mean, I don't know if we're gonna necessarily spoil this one. I mean, we probably will. But yeah, we're gonna be talking about Creed 3 today. But before I get to that, just to mention, if you like the show, like what we do, like us, hit the slap the like button.
I mean, that might work.
It might work. I don't know what phone you have, but yeah, do a swipe, tap the follow, subscribe to us, listen to us. We put out podcast episodes. We're trying to hit every week. On top of that, if you want to continue the conversation, talk to us directly, tell us we're a bunch of fucking assholes, you can come onto our Discord channel. Okay, it's in the show notes of this episode. That's where you can talk to us. That's where you can find us out. With that said, now let's get back to the review. Talking about Creed 3. So I got to be honest with you, John. I had not seen any of the Creed movies leading up to this.
And the thing was, I was very cynical about this franchise, and thankfully I was completely wrong because I had seen them. Because I was a big fan of Rocky in a sense that I love the first one. I felt the second one wasn't needed, but by the third one had come around, I'm like, okay, well, this is just a franchise now. I'll just live with that. The fourth one is terrible.
Are you talking about Rocky?
Rockies, yeah.
Yeah.
The fourth one was terrible, but hilarious.
No, the fourth one is glorious.
Yeah.
Rocky fights the Russian. I don't give a shit. That is pure. That's it. That's if the Rocky movies decided, hey, we want to be a B movie. What do we have to do to be a B movie?
If it does, it does.
If he does, he does. He fights like iron.
Yeah. Guess who wrote and directed that movie?
Oh, I wonder who did.
Yeah. But then Rocky 5 is not great, although the producer's cut, the director's cut of it is better than
I've never seen the director's cut.
It's still not great. But then
I don't know. The street fight's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
That's a classic. That's a classic. And you know what it is? It's like it's the imagery in that one, because that one gets like real fucking dark. Like whenever you see like Mickey show up and he like got scenes of like blood coming down Rocky's head and all this shit, you're just like, holy crap! Like Rocky got really dark real fast.
Hey, he had to smack Tommy Gunn around.
He did. Fucking asshole.
But then Rocky Balboa was fine, and I was like,
I would have been fine if they stopped there, because I saw Rocky Balboa and I'm like, all right, I get it, and it was good for its time, and the whole idea of like what happens to your hero as they age, and the whole idea of like life hits you and do you get back up? Like I will say that movie probably has one of like the best speeches in it It's the one that you always hear about. It's where Rocky's talking to his kid, and his kid's talking about how, like, life's unfair and everything like that, and he's kind of just being a whiny little asshole,
which is pretty par for the course of that kid.
Well, yeah. And Rocky's just going into, like, it's not about how hard he gets hit, it's about how you get up, and do you get up, and do you that's how it works. And you know what, there is some truth to that. I really do think that. So, like, it's a very aspirational moment within the movie, but like the idea of what is he supposed to be, like 65 at that moment?
Probably, yeah.
Around. So, like, he's 65-year-old deciding that, hey, I'm gonna go back into boxing. Kind of unrealistic. Plus, his arm looks really weird in it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It looks like it almost kind of looks like. You remember back in the 90s when they had Stretch Armstrong, and then they also had like his super villain Vac Pack. You remember that one, or Vac Man?
Yes. Wow.
His arm kind of looks like a Vac Man arm if you stretched it. Like, it kind of looks all craggly and like veiny, like glorious toy, by the way. Just gotta say, like, 90s kids, we literally had it made when it came to toys.
Yeah. Well, I'm telling you, like, getting buff and then losing that muscle mass, then getting buff again and losing it, going back and forth, kind
of like a vacuum, right? Like, yeah, Vac Man.
The body eventually is going to be like, we just don't know how to exist anymore.
The body's just like, no, we are not doing this again. I'm looking at you, Christian Bale, because you have done some stuff to your body.
Yeah,
and your body's an old man. Your body's one day is going to just say, fuck you. I'm not getting fat. I'm not getting skinny again for nobody.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I liked Rocky Balboa. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, all around, like, the Rocky movies, sequel wise, they're good fun, right? They're good fun. They're good popcorn movies. The first one, I think, is really, like, superb. If we're talking about, like, filmmaking class, like, it's a superb story.
Well, that was a tough year in terms of, like, if you have any credence towards the Oscars, like, if you put any credence to that was a hell of a year. Like, all the President's Men, Network, so many great movies came out that year. But I'm going to venture a guess that there is one reason and one reason only that Rocky won Best Picture.
Why do you think?
Vietnam was over. Mm-hmm. We needed something aspirational. We had all these assassinations, Watergate, Vietnam. Mm-hmm. Here comes a movie about an underdog who wins the day, even though he doesn't win the fight. He wins the day, he proves himself, he gets the girl. That was the movie that the country needed at that moment.
I could see that. I could see that being the case. Yeah. It's funny that like Vietnam, at least in your viewing of this, probably might have been the thing that pushed Rocky into what we view it today, because this is also Sylvester Stallone, who ended up becoming Rambo, right? Another product of the Vietnam War. And there's sequels to Rambo to ad nauseum.
Well, the first one had like kind of a progressive statement. Then all the other ones were just like propaganda for the state.
It was the 80s. That's kind of what happened.
That's Reagan's America, baby.
That's Reagan's America. We can't say anything bad about, the U.S. because of the reasons.
Yeah. But anywho, so
we're not talking about Rocky today.
When we got to
kind of are, but
yeah. When we got to Creed, I was very cynical, and I'm like, oh god, here we go. But then I saw the first Creed, I'm like, that was really good.
Yeah.
And then
I ended up watching I haven't watched the second one yet. So I watched the first one after I saw Creed 3, because like you, John, like I was like, whoa, it was really good. And it was pleasantly surprised to see the first one really kind of be the genesis of that.
But yeah, from there, like the second one I thought was fairly decent. I hated that, for considering they were trying to give this more of a serious tone, that they brought in Drago. I'm like, so you picked the goofiest one,
but here's the thing, man. Like they had to bring Drago in, because if I was writing this thing, I'd say bring Drago in too, because the whole thing with Creed is that he's, always, at least in the first movie, he's trying to be worthy of that mantle, right? Like he first boxes as his mother's name, Johnson, and decides later to really embrace the name Creed. And it's always a matter of like, does he live up to that name? Is he just, a fake Creed, or he's even called like a baby Creed and it pisses him off? But like in the sequel, it makes sense to bring in Drago because that ended Creed's legacy. Like he literally killed him. So
No, I get that.
It
I
makes
totally
sense
get
from
that.
a storytelling standpoint to include him.
But for me, it felt like I totally understand what you're saying. But for me, it felt like bringing in Arnold Schwarzenegger's like Mr. Freeze to the Robert Pattinson Batman movies. Something in the way, chill. Like, it just doesn't fit.
Don't give anybody ideas, John. Because you know what's gonna happen, right? Like you're gonna say that, and then they're gonna go ahead and decide. They're like, I've listened to this podcast, and they had a really good idea. What if? Get this. We brought in Arnold Schwarzenegger to be Mr. Freeze. Only this time he's going to be goth and emo Freeze, right? Be really jaded because he's been frozen for so long. Like,
not
like
cool
that.
party,
not cool party. Let's kick some not ice. So water? No, just paper, paper, scissors. Yeah. But no, I get what you're saying. I just think from a storytelling perspective, we're talking about Creed's legacy, and Adonis Creed. It kind of makes sense to include him. But I can see where, going back to Rocky IV, how Drago is such a ridiculous character, and he's literally a clown with all the trappings that go with. He's literally like a cartoon supervillain.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they took Nuclear Man from Superman 4, The Quest for Peace, and they just pumped him up full of steroids.
Or as Gene Hackman would call him, Nuclear Man.
Nuclear Man.
It's like, I love that they just had no time and no money. And also the director probably didn't want to question the great Gene Hackman and go,
no, we can't.
Mr. Hackman, it's nuclear.
Nuclear.
Fuck you, kid. I said it how I said it.
Yeah. But we're not talking about those two Creed movies. We're talking about Creed 3. Now, this one has a little bit of drama behind the scenes. You want to talk a little about the drama?
Could you? Because I actually am unaware of this.
All right. So I'm not, and this is going off of just like seeing some reports about it. But I guess at first, not Rocky, but Sylvester Stallone was not going to be involved in Creed 3. And I guess there were some behind the scenes tensions between the producer of the Rocky films, I believe his name is Irwin Winkler, I think is the name, and the rights to those films with Sylvester Stallone. And I guess it's caused a lot of tension, and it's kind of bled over into the Creed universe, if we will. We'll kind of call it that. So it's bled over into the Creed films. And I guess that at one point, Sylvester Stallone kind of gave Michael B. Jordan his blessing, but then in more recent interviews, Sylvester Stallone's been like, I can't watch the movie. Like, he refuses to watch the movie, which is interesting. Yeah.
What is his? Because he didn't get paid, or what?
I mean, my guess is that he feels like, well, Rocky's not in this. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about that, because this movie, and I'll be coming out with this right out of the gate, I don't think it suffers from a lack of not having Rocky in it.
I don't think they need him.
I don't. And I have reasons why I don't think you need him. But I think there's that tension there. And I think that's probably why there's been this stuff in the media. But I think the biggest tension is just the rights issues between Irwin Winkler and Sylvester Stallone. And that's kind of bled into this movie. Now, this is worth saying. This Creed 3 was directed by Michael B. Jordan. It was not directed by Ryan Coogler, who had done the previous two. So with that said, this is a little bit of a different movie. And even in only watching the first one, I can see the difference. But I really think that it's for the better, at least for me and my viewing of it. I'm
with you. I'm with you on that, because like I hate that every single Star Wars product has to have a Skywalker in it. That it's a
come on.
giant
Skywalker's a name that's just anyone can pick up.
but it's a
even-
giant universe.
Even
Just
a
everything
girl
happens.
from the desert who literally just kind of fell into it. Anybody can be a Skywalker, John.
For anybody here who has not seen Mandalorian season 2, skip ahead 10 seconds. I'm gonna say I'm the only person that hated Luke Skywalker showing up at the end.
Oh,
to take
come on.
Baby Yoda.
You are the only one because I loved it. I love that part.
Does everything have to revolve around the fucking Skywalker?
No,
family?
it makes sense for the time, John. It makes sense. Listen, we all needed that. All we had prior to that was grumpy old man Skywalker screaming at the sky, drinking
milk.
green milk.
That got in his beard.
We needed to have a Luke Skywalker moment where he's just coming in like a fucking badass and laying down the law with his lightsaber on some dark troopers. Okay, we needed that. We needed that as fans. So that's the reason why.
I think this movie needed to divorce itself from Rock. If this movie was called Rocky 9, and Creed 1 was called Rocky 7, if then obviously, let's it would be strange considering that he's not the main character anymore. But yeah, obviously, let's have him in the movie.
Yeah.
If it's called Rock, the movie's called Creed. It's about a character, sure, in that universe, but he doesn't need Rocky there all the time.
No, I agree. And I understood why they included those story points of Rocky in the first Creed. Again, I haven't seen the second one. From what I understand, it's more like him resolving his issues with his son, which, okay, that's cool. But at the same time, and like also dealing with like the fact you have to fight Ivan Drago and not Ivan Drago, but his son. But like when we get to this point in Adonis's story, where does Rocky fit into it?
Yeah,
right?
Like the character Duke, who is like from the Rocky movie. That's all Sylvester Stallone would have been. He just would have been what Duke is in this movie.
And honestly, there are times when Duke is kind of goofy in some of the sequels, right? Like he's also the one in Rocky Balboa who says, "Oh, we're gonna make some hurtin' bombs.
Let's drop some hurtin' bombs."
So anyway, I kind of think that Rocky's not needed in this one because this is a very personal story for Adonis. The movie, in essence, is a conflict between your past and your present, or dealing with the past and how, in essence, we're always fighting that past. But what happens if that past is personified in a person who can fight back and threaten what you currently have?
And there's so many characters in this movie and there's no way you're going to have Sylvester Stallone in it without him having his own side story.
Of course.
And so like you got the mom who's like now a stroke victim. You got how his wife had to like retire from being a performer and now she's a producer and she struggles with that. He has issues with his daughter, like solving her problems through violence. And these are all like technically side stories, but there's so many of them. If you got Rocky in there, the movie would have been like 3 hours long.
And where would that have fit into any of this? Yeah. Like that's my thing is a lot of what Adonis goes through in his life, I'm sorry, but Rocky really can't relate to.
Yeah. Especially like this story too. Yeah.
Yeah. In this story, you can't, Adonis in this movie, he lives in group homes, has to undergo horrible situations with adults in those group homes and, is tainted by those situations. And it comes back to bite him when he's older. But, it's something where I'm sorry, but Rocky is a white man. And I don't think he can relate to what Adonis has gone through. I really don't.
Although Rocky was a hoodlum. He was a criminal.
I get that. But I'm sorry. There is a vastly big difference. And between what, a white man has gone through in this country versus people of African American descent. I'm sorry. It's
you're absolutely right. Yeah.
That's the story of America. Yeah. So where would Rocky fit into this? I don't think he can fit into this This is a personal story. And by the way, I say this fully acknowledging that I am a white middle-aged neckbeard man. And
we both are, yeah.
We are doing it. But I'm just saying, like, this isn't his story. So it wouldn't make sense to fit him in this. It just wouldn't. And I've seen some people it's a very small minority of people that I've seen who've been like, well, there's no fucking Rocky in this. This is a Rocky movie. I'm like, no, it's not.
It's a Creed movie.
It's
Look
a
at the
Creed
title.
movie.
Yeah.
Read the fucking title.
With Sylvester Stallone, they should have just done what they did with Tim Burton and Batman Forever. They
Yeah.
gave Tim Burton a producer's credit. I guarantee he didn't do jack shit.
But it was no fucking way he did jack shit.
But they're kind of like, this is kind of like their, hey, sorry we fired you over McDonald's, but we're still going to get you a paycheck and you won't have to do anything. So it should have been like produced by and like the 5 names, and it should have been Sylvester Stallone at the bottom, i.e. sit at home, Sly. We're going to give you a $900,000 paycheck for doing nothing.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to be a little bitch. You know?
What do you mean you got rid of I tell you I was gonna do a movie. Rocky goes to Hawaii.
I was gonna fly up Creed on the moon.
That's the next one. Is the moon land? Moon land. I'm gonna time travel back into 1969. You're gonna fight the Russians in space. Oh, that's the Fast and the Furious movie. Sorry.
Yeah. I do feel that this movie, and we will get into some spoilers, but I don't really think I have to.
I don't think you
what
have
I'm
to.
about to say, is that I think that this movie is a beautiful finish line for this. And I know that if it makes a bunch of money, they're going to be like, make a 4th one. But I hope they don't. I think this is a nice trilogy. I think it might be nice to just leave it be. If, like I said, if it makes a bunch of money, I'm not sure what it's doing at the box office.
I don't know where you go from here, though.
You'd have to do what they did with the Rocky movies. Like Rocky's like retired, but he has to get back in the ring to avenge his buddy. They had to find some new spin on that.
I'm kind of in the same boat as you, John. I really don't think it's necessary. Like this movie starts off with Adonis basically realizing everything that he wanted in the first one. Like he in essence becomes the world champion. He retires. He gets all the money. He has the big house. He has the name. He does literally everything he ever wanted. He even owns the fucking gym that in the first movie said, we don't want to train you. You know? So like he's got at that point, he's at the apex of where he should be. And in storytelling, like that's a really good place to be at because you're already at the top. And it's what do you do now? Where does the conflict come? And obviously, like we haven't really explored Adonis's backstory up till now. We know that, you know, he was adopted by Creed's widow, but we don't really know too much aside from that, right? Yeah. So when we get to this point, it makes sense that we are now looking at, you know, Adonis's past. And
what would happen if they caught you and not me?
Yeah.
You have the life I would have had.
Yeah. Yeah. And it really is a matter of like your past threatening your current and your future, because it quite literally does. And it's personified by Johnathan Majors, which he is a hell of an actor.
Yes. And
Jesus
fucking
Christ.
jacked as shit.
He is
He's
jacked
huge.
as shit. I say that as a straight man, but damn.
Good looking body. Good looking body.
Good looking body.
See,
Good
I thought
job,
Michael B.
bud.
Jordan had like a really good, strong physique. And then this guy comes in. I don't even know if those two are in the same weight class. We're talking about boxing rules.
Are they supposed to be like light heavyweight? Isn't that what it's supposed to be?
Well, originally, Adonis was in a light heavyweight, but I think he bulked up and got into the heavyweight division.
Okay. But because I was gonna say Diamond Anderson is very jacked, and holy shit, like, you know, Johnathan Majors has literally been knocked out of the park. You know, he's been the one thing that everyone except for us, like, we didn't hate Ant-Man 3 Quantumania, but like he's been like the shining light in that movie. You know, he's been in other projects. Like I first saw him in Lovecraft Country. I thought he was amazing in that. So like he's knocking on the park in these movies. But
Well, I do love that all three of the stars of these movies are in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
that is funny. You've got Killmonger, you have Valkyrie, and you have Kang in a movie.
Well, it's just like English people with the Harry Potter franchise. Like, you either die or you live long enough to see yourself in a Marvel movie. I mean, they put motherfucking Batman in a Marvel movie. I'm like,
They did.
When you get Batman,
Two Batman.
that's true. Yeah,
Two Batman. You're forgetting not Falcon, but what the hell? The Michael Keaton played him.
damn it. What is that character?
What is his character's name?
We'll figure it out. Let's
Vulture. It was Vulture.
Yeah.
There you go. Vulture.
Hey, the ball's in your court, Ben Affleck.
That's right. Clooney's got to show up too.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know what Kilmer would become in that.
I don't either. But yeah, I could see George Clooney being like, not like a main character, but like a suit. Like,
just doing his mugging face.
Like, what was that? William Hurt, like that character?
Oh,
like,
no, well, Harrison Ford's going to be that character, Thunderbolt Ross. Yeah,
but I could see him being a character like that. I wouldn't, I don't want to see George Clooney as Venom, but but something more of like a suit. Yeah.
I'm telling you, Kevin Feige, you listen to this show, George Clooney is Venom. Call it right now. Getting back to Creed 3. So yeah, it starts off the movie with Adonis basically getting everything he ever wanted. It's like that scene at the end of Willy Wonka in the Chocolate Factory where you know what happened to the boy who got everything. He got everything he ever wanted, right? He lived happily ever after. Well, that's where Adonis is.
That's a horrible message, by the way. Like, the whole thing is like, oh yeah, is that if you get everything you ever wanted, then you don't appreciate anything, or you might become corrupted. But no, Willy Wonka's like, no, eat nothing but candy every day for the rest of your life and die at 40.
But you'll get everything you ever wanted, John.
Chocolate bars, 10 chocolate bars an hour every
and
hour
diabetes
until your heart gives out. Yeah.
You lose a foot. But you'll have everything you ever wanted except for a foot.
Yeah. That's right. The Oompa Loompas will carry you around.
Yeah. Or you can just take an Oompa Loompa and form them into a foot. I'm sure they won't mind.
But can I say what I think is the biggest problem with this movie?
Sure.
And I understand that if they took the other route of what I'm about to say, then it is just Rocky 3.
Okay.
But Creed retires on top, and then Diamond Dame beats his protege, and then he like gets in there and he feels he has to fight him. Like, it should have been. And again, I know this is just Rocky 3.
Okay.
Diamond Dame should have beaten Apollo. Or not Apollo, sorry, Adonis.
Okay.
Because then he has something to actually fight for.
Here's my thoughts on that. I think the reason why they went that route is because Adonis at this point, his legacy is in the fighters he's training. You know what I mean? And so,
but you're going to lose some.
Well, right. But here's the thing: like the fighter that he was training was one that was going to basically like put his name on the top, even more so, kind of establish that. And if you had someone who was directly from your past threatening not only you but your legacy, and basically saying like every person that you're going to throw out, because if you put your top fighter out there and they get the shit kicked out of him, what's going to happen the next one? You know what I mean? So in a sense, he did get knocked out in that first one because it was his legacy that got knocked out. So
I don't know if his legacy gets knocked out.
I think it is. I think that his name was all tied up to it. I think that's kind of where he's at. His app is as Adonis Creed. He's the one who builds these champions, and clearly someone is taking that away from him. Now, where I don't have a problem with that, but I see where you're going with that. Like, why does he feel it's necessary to get his skin in the game at this point? Why does a fight solve? Well, that was my problem. So my issue with this, and again, like, I love this movie from a storytelling perspective. It's a solid movie, and I was not expecting that going into it. But the messaging that you have between Adonis, his Bianca, and his daughter, where it's like, we're telling you that fighting is not the way to resolve shit
until he just does it behind her
until
back.
he
And that's never
just
resolved.
does it. And that's never talked about. Like that's the problem I have. And I know why they did it. It's like, and he even says at one point, it's like, oh, I got to solve this my way. But didn't you just get done saying that fighting isn't the way to deal with this?
Yeah.
Like, didn't you just say that 5 minutes ago?
There's something noble about falling on the sword. And I know this is a boxing movie.
Yeah.
So the main event has to be boxing.
Yeah.
But the very end of this movie is more cathartic than anything that happened in a fight.
Where they're in the locker room.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
I
the
agree.
true, like, main event of it, because there's actually catharsis.
I almost
characters.
wonder what would happen if they took that scene and put that ahead of the fight. Like, what if you did that? What if you had it where Adonis decides, you know what? I'm going to deal with this shit now because I just got done telling my daughter, you solve your fights with words, that you don't resort to just fighting. Can we solve this without that? And what would happen then? Would Diamond Dane like just say, okay, would that resolve it? Or would it now add another layer that now means that he has to go into the fight with, I've tried. This is the next step. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I think that would make more sense within the story of Adonis trying to basically do the right thing of, I'm not going to resort to violence if I don't have to, that's not going to solve this problem. Because as you're right, John, we get to the end and that's literally what he did. But what if we did that before the fight happened, during their warm-up, right before they go into the match? Would that change things? Would it up the stakes more?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because there's and dear listeners of Psychos Nation, I need to make very clear, I really, really like this movie.
Oh yeah, we're like totally splitting hairs.
I gave it an 8.5, closer to a 9 than an 8. I really enjoyed it.
I gave it a 9. I gave it a 9. A solid 9.
I do have an issue with, I don't know if there's enough growth from Adonis in this movie, that like he doesn't learn to properly open up. He doesn't learn how to express his feelings. To a degree, but then like he just ends up saying the wrong thing to Tessa Thompson. She's like, you think this is easy on me, like expressing my feelings? Like, no, it's difficult for me. Mm-hmm. And he's like, oh, I fucking said the wrong thing again, and I'm just gonna like be super quiet about it. And then he solves his problems that got him in his initial problem in the first place, was violence. Mm-hmm. And he teaches his daughter to be violent. Yeah. And it's like, this, where is the what's the moral here? Where's the character arc? What are we learning from any of this? And especially since I know that it was his legacy and it was his boy that Dame knocked out. But for Dame just to be like, ha ha ha, you're a stupid little bitch. Ha ha ha, you're Apollo Creed's like stupid little illegitimate bastard son. And he went, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna fight you now because you're just constantly being a dick. And I don't even know why Dame, after he got everything he ever wanted, like, why keep poking him? Like, why he's such an asshole?
Because he's it's what Little Duke said. He's mad at the world, just utterly mad at the world. He's basically Adonis Creed in the first movie, but doesn't have Rocky there to guide him.
Right.
That's kind of the way I saw it, is like, this is if you didn't have that, if he was even in worse circumstances before, because not only that, but like, Adonis had the upbringing of the Creeds. So like he had at least a family, Dane didn't have any of that at all. He was in prison. So like, that's where he's coming from. And then he has no guidance from Rocky. So it's basically he's almost fighting himself, which again is funny because it goes back to the first movie where you have Adonis fight in the mirror and he says your biggest opponent is yourself. And this kind of reflects that. So I get it, but I really do echo what you're saying, that the messaging in this, especially about the don't use violence to solve your problems, is a little on the weak side.
Yeah, and sometimes the noblest thing you can do is not fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is I think they could get away with it if they had that moment in the locker room earlier, or they had it before the fight actually happened. If you had that moment where, Adonis says, "I'm sorry. You were absolutely right. And it was wrong for me to run away and basically, lead to that." And then you have that moment of catharsis, and then you go into a fight that now really does build upon that, and really does, like, you almost, like, you also could have a moment where, Dane says, "Fuck you, I don't care." You know what I mean? Like, having even that moment where then, as I said, you've got a point there where Adonis has done everything he can, and now he has resorted to only using what he knows, which is to fight. That makes more sense to me from a storytelling perspective. But whatever, I get why they did it. I think the big arc with this one is just what happens when your past comes to fight.
Yeah.
That's it.
Do you think that Dame became a little bit too much of a mustache twirler after he showed his hand, and like we knew that
I really liked the way that his hand was shown. Like, he comes off in the beginning of this, right before you see that moment where all hell breaks loose, where he's very much just like a snake. Just like a snake. He's weaving his way into Adonis's life, trying to be his friend, trying to be like, "Oh, help me out," this sort of thing. And that moment on the beach when, you get the moment where Adonis is like, "Listen, I know the guy who attacked, Drago was someone you knew."
Yeah.
Like, the turn there is fantastic. Because then, I like that turn, but
I would have appreciated a bit more nuance.
I don't.
Instead of him just becoming like, "Ha ha ha, I fooled you, you stupid asshole. Ha ha ha, you're such a moron, and I'm a super genius." Like, I don't know. I would have liked it.
Wrong movie. He's super genius in Ant-Man.
Yeah.
The Marvel movie. Maybe he was filming both these at the same time. He was like, "Wait a minute. I don't have to overact to 1,000. Yeah. I can bring it down a bit." But no, I didn't think he was too much of a mustache twirler. I felt that the phone call he had with Adonis when he's on TV
on the Stephen A. Smith show.
Yeah. Is that who it is?
Yeah. And the thing is, I think notoriously real people are terrible at playing themselves.
They are terrible.
But he was good. I've seen him. He's obnoxious as hell. But the thing is, he played himself very well in that movie.
Here's the thing. I didn't even know he was a real sports anchor.
Yeah, he's ESPN and the NBA. He does a lot of
Okay. See, I don't watch sports, so there you go. But no, I thought that moment in the film was a little like, Snidely Whiplash, like, kind of like, yeah, you're a fucking asshole. Haha, you're a fake Creed. You're a paper champion. That sort of shit. Could he have toned that part down? Yeah, but he also knows that he's gonna get his goat on national television.
See, to me, like, if like the Joker's entire plan was like, let's say the Dark Knight, for example, let's say the Joker actually ended up blowing up both boats. Yeah. And escape somehow without the police getting him. Like, so the Joker's won. He's accomplished everything he wants. It would be like the Joker just coming out every once in a while and kicking Batman in the testicles. It's like, you already won. Why are you doing this?
Oh, your analogies are fantastic. I just gotta tell you. I get it. I think it's honestly like the same token as like when Mr. T showed up in Rocky 3 and is like, "Hey, woman, you want a real man? Come back to my hotel." And like, holy fucking shit, Rocky like goes nuts.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of what they were going for,
But see, again, to go back to Rocky 3, like Rocky like accomplished everything he wanted in life, but then eventually he was being fed like
he was
paper contenders. They weren't real contenders. And then when somebody who actually came and was hungry and wanted the title like he used to be absolutely destroyed him, he had to prove that his legacy wasn't for nothing.
Yeah.
And I don't think that Adonis really had that as much, because at the end of the day, like, if Michael Jordan coached the NBA and never won a championship as a coach, it doesn't change the fact that he's a 6-time champion as a player. That legacy will never be touched. It doesn't matter if he wins championships as a coach, which he's not a coach, he's an owner, but you get my point.
I think it's different, though. I really do. I think it's different because, like, in this, Adonis's name is on everything. He literally has become boxing. You know?
And Hennessy. Don't forget Hennessy.
Can't,
oh my God.
Can't forget that.
It's like Folgers in those Hallmark Christmas movies. It's everywhere.
You know what's funny? You know what's funny? And this is going to spoil it for you, but so like I just saw Shazam, Fury of the Gods, and I never thought that I would see product placement as bad.
Oh, I'm going to guess. I'm going to cut you off real quick.
Go ahead, cut me off.
I'm going to guess that it's Mountain Dew.
No.
Ah, shit. Okay, what is it?
Skittles.
Oh, Skittles. Oh.
There is a literal plot point that revolves around Skittles. It's almost as bad, John, as the Krispy Kreme from Power Rangers.
Wait, you mean that Goldar is going to the delicious Krispy Kreme, which provides delicious donuts at competitive prices? That's right. We have to go fight him there.
Listen. It's almost as bad as that. If you go to see the movie, which I'm sure you will, it's almost as bad as that. Like I totally was like, all right, whatever. It's Shazam, Fury of the Gods. I don't care. But like, I know that I kept thinking, I'm like, John's going to see this movie and he's going to say, what the fuck are Skittles doing in this fucking thing? but it's very much like that. But yeah, you're right. Like in this, you know, Adonis's name and everything, and Hennessy, because reasons. Hennessy put up the money for the movie. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, but Adonis is drinking like $300 scotch. He's not
drinking Hennessy.
Yeah,
there's no way that man is drinking Hennessy. Now, what did you think about?
He's got gator shoes, he's got Cuban cigars, and he's got $300 fucking scotch. Okay,
just to throw me off my game here, man.
Sorry,
throw me off my points. So what did you think about some of our supporting characters? You mentioned a little bit about, you know, Adonis's mother and Bianca and his daughter. What did you think about these supporting characters in this movie?
I wish that there had been more with the daughter.
Yeah.
I kind of understand that there's not going to be much for his wife to do. Cause like in the first movie, you know, she's struggling to prove herself in a different way as much as he is, you know, and then for better or worse in the second one, she's just there to be part of his emotional growth as a character, but he's kind of come full circle as a character, which doesn't leave her much to do, but there's not always going to be tons of things for other characters to do in certain movies. I wish they had done more with the daughter. I'm confused as to what the point was of his mom dying, considering it didn't really seem like it had a narrative purpose.
I mean, the narrative purpose is just like, you know, his mother was protecting him. And that's kind of the thing that I think a lot of us have is like our parents, their sole job is to protect us.
Kind of like Mick in Rocky 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like she was protecting him from Dane. That was the whole thing that she was protecting him from, because she was afraid of what that would do to him in his life. And do I think she was right in keeping his letters? No, I actually don't. I think it just prolonged the inevitable.
Yeah.
That it would have been much smarter to let him see those letters and know what was going on with his friend, because Dane was his friend. Like, that's the thing, is like they were friends. And, you know, to shun that whole thing off and just, you know, cut him off from that life, in essence, help breed the villain in this movie.
Yeah.
And that's the consequence of what his mother did. So I understood why she was there. I understood why she died, which, spoiler alert, she dies in the movie.
But I don't see what the catalyst is for that, though.
Because Adonis said mean things. He said mean things to his mom. And listen, it's filmmaking 101. If the main character says mean things to a parent, Okay. The parent immediately dies.
You're not my father, Uncle Ben.
Yes. It's the Uncle Ben paradox.
Yeah.
If you are shitty to your parent, in the next scene, your parent's dead. That's just how it works. Uncle Ben, Adonis's mother, like that's just how it works. Don't say mean things to your parents, kids, because you never know. They might be dead tomorrow.
But if we're talking, screenwriting 101,
yeah,
the idea of Mick dying at Rocky's lowest moment is that he has lost his confidant. He's alone now, and he's lost. Now, somebody who isn't there to protect him, but to build him back up comes into his life, which is Apollo Creed. And he has kind of like, like a new mentor, a new partner in all of this, where I don't know his mom dying at the end of the second act, what that in a script writing sense led to. Especially if it was a matter of him being able to open up, he doesn't. And by the end of the movie, she goes, "Are you okay?" And he goes, "Yeah, whatever."
Yeah, I mean, that the whole idea of him like opening up, like, which they hit you over the head with it. And I appreciate that they are talking about that, because in a lot of these movies, emotions, aside from love and anger, are never talked about.
Yeah.
Ever. These movies are notorious for never going that deep, into things like regret and just more complex emotions than just love and anger. So I appreciate that they did that. But like for Adonis's character, you're right. Like he's told, "Oh, you got to open up. Oh, you got to be more emotional. You got to let me in." And first of all, if you're in a marriage and you don't open up about how you're feeling, it's gonna kind of lead to like a not marriage.
Yeah.
Real fast.
Communication is key. Love's most important thing, but communication's a close second.
Yeah. So like the fact that Adonis does not open up about his past and about his feelings to his wife is never really resolved. He does have a moment when he does open up a bit about, what happened in the group home, and that's great. And it's clearly a first step, but yeah, you're right. Like we never go back to that after the fight.
Yeah. And right after, like when his mom dies, like he and his wife are like right outside the bedroom of, Mrs. Creed. I can't remember what her name. And, and he says like, maybe this was all my fault. Maybe I, because I never reached out to him. I never, visited him. Maybe I made this monster because I never took any responsibility for what happened. And then I think she says something else like, "Who wants craisins?" And then that was the end of that conversation.
Crazy.
I don't, and it was just like, I'm like, oh, there was actually some kind of like interesting possible
you
growth
do get
there.
Well, here's the thing. You do get that moment in the locker room, though. It is resolved in the locker room,
but it's resolved from Damian's point of view, because honestly, if you really think about it, him running away and then not owning up to anything basically took Damian's life from him.
Yeah.
And then by beating him in his first fight as a fighter, like his career is kind of over. So if you really think about it, Adonis took his life from him twice.
Oh. I love how you twist these movies. I really do. But I mean, I possibly, we also don't know what goes from there. Like obviously no one would have suspected that, Drago's son would have showed up in this movie and they're buddies now. Right. Like no one thought that.
Yeah.
But here we are. So like no one knows if they make a fourth one, which judging by the box office, they probably will, which I hope they don't.
We're in the money.
Yeah, we don't know if Dame comes back, and he probably won't because he costs money. A lot of money.
Oh yeah, especially now that he's Marvel royalty.
He's Marvel royalty. Yeah, he's gonna cost some dollars. But yeah, like we don't know what happens next. But that's a very interesting perspective to say that he beat him twice and destroyed him twice, which makes you be like, who's the real villain in this?
Yeah.
Yeah. I do want to talk a bit about some of the filmmaking techniques in this, because the fight in this, I'd say, is one of the most interesting like fights in a boxing movie that I've ever seen. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Like how the visuals, like almost like sight gags in comedy movies, showed up in this thing.
Well, before even if because I know you're talking about some kind of the more of the like artistic choices.
Yes.
But yeah, they shoot these, I think, which is very good. Like almost like you see if you watch boxing on pay-per-view or on ESPN, like it's not like say Rocky 1 or Rocky 2. Like these movies, they shoot them like they're actual boxing like premium events that you're watching. But yeah, I thought that was an interesting choice. It was a way to show metaphorical, because what we're talking about is like there's scenes where all of a sudden there's jail, like all the fans are gone and it's just the two of them, and there's like jail bars that they're running into, and it's so in a way that you've never really seen in these movies. There was a lot of like metaphorical.
What was interesting is usually in this type of movie, like you'd have a montage of all the different like rounds.
Yeah,
and clearly Michael B. Jordan wanted to do something different, because this sequence is in essence replacing that montage. We go from like round 1 to the final round in a matter of seconds. And instead what we get is the sequence where the audience disappears. It's just Dame and Adonis, and they're fighting, and they're fighting against things that are from their visuals from their actual lives. Like Adonis gets smacked into, I think, like the pillow that him and Dane as children would fight against, like actually punch against. And Dame gets smacked into like a jail cell, and they're basically visual sight gags. And I say sight gags because usually in comedic films you'd see the stuff all the time. So I think when we talked about Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, like the scene where John Candy is in front of like a literal taxi cab door. Like that taxi cab door really doesn't exist there, but it's inside Steve Martin's like mind. And that was an interesting take.
Or when he becomes the devil.
or that sort of thing. But like it's an interesting take to do in a more serious dramatic film, because you really never see that, and they're like, they could have very easily just done the traditional Rocky montage, the music swells up, blah, blah, blah. But it was really fun. And like as a filmmaker, for me to see that, I was like, all right, this is something special.
You don't think it was a hint heavy-handed?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I really don't. I think it was a stylistic choice. I think it was something that had to show that this isn't just a battle of two people. It's a battle of two people's lives. Like you're literally seeing clashes of history and lives in the ring. And how do you show that? As a filmmaker, one of the things you always have to do is try to visually show something. And so it elevates this battle to something that it's more than just punches being thrown.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Final thoughts, John, on Creed 3.
I would have. I really liked it. I think what we had talked about here at the end, I would have almost liked the quiz show ending. And don't worry, everybody. I'll say what I mean by that is that the movie Quiz Show is based off of the scandals of them fixing the quiz shows in the 1950s.
Yeah.
And at the end of the movie, the guy who brings down the quiz shows accidentally brings down Van Doren, who got sucked into that world where he was given the answers like everyone else, and the one guy was complimenting him like, hey, you really got him. You got him. He said, like, I wasn't out to get Van Doren. I was out to get the quiz shows, and he accidentally took somebody down with his victory. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of that, of Apollo thinking like,
you mean Adonis.
I keep doing, yeah. Well, I guess that's his poppy. So, but yeah, it would
dead.
Yeah, his dead father. But yeah, I would have liked to have seen maybe a little bit more reflection on a little bit more nuance to a couple of things in the movie, especially that of like what did I do, what have I done?
You know what I would have liked to have seen?
What's that?
Force Ghost Apollo.
Yes. Son. In that blue light, you can see through him.
Yeah, it's just like when Adonis and Bianca and his daughter are in the ring, you just see like the camera pans back around and you see Apollo in the American flag trunks with the hat on that he had in Living in America, just as a Force ghost.
Oh, wait, then Rocky can walk in as a Force ghost and he can be like,
Oh, yeah,
Rocky, did you die? And he goes, apparently, I guess I did.
I'm just saying, it should have had a Force ghost Apollo show up in this. Michael B. Jordan, why didn't you do that? Why did you do
Weathers
that?
is alive. Yeah,
You did all sorts of sight gags. You couldn't have put in a Force ghost. Oh man, no, but in all seriousness, I really enjoyed this movie. I was not planning to, just because I hadn't seen this. You know,
Right, do you like boxing at all?
Not really. I've never, again, as I mentioned in the show, I'm not really a big sports person. The only sport I actually enjoy, even watching, and you're gonna find this funny, is trick shot billiards.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's fun.
Like that's fun to watch. When I was a kid, I remember watching that. Like, I must have been like 12 or 13, and I would watch the trick shot stuff, and I'm just like, this is fucking awesome.
My dad
So,
used
like,
to be able to do a couple of those.
I can't do any of that, but like that's probably the only thing that I enjoy. But I really don't give a shit about sports. I rather watch a movie or TV show. So but that doesn't mean like I grew up with the Rocky movies too, and grew up with an appreciation for those films. My brothers and I both did. So but do I have any like investment in the sport of boxing? Not really. Same amount of investment in the sport of wrestling from 1999. That's pretty much it.
Oh, not amateur professional, huh? Yeah.
Oh no. Well, clearly, Attitude Era Raw. That was pretty much it. But no, like that's the thing. I've never been a boxer. What about you?
Yeah. I was very much a big fan back, like especially in the Tyson era, and yeah, I blew a small fortune on the Mayweather Pacquiao fight.
Why did you do? Why?
I wanted to see the fight. It was fight night. It was like,
but I thought you bet on it.
Oh no! I know. I paid like
you paid to go actually
$100 to get the pay-per-view.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not really blowing a small fortune.
$100 is a fucking expensive pay-per-view. At least it wasn't like the Tyson days where Tyson knocked a guy out in like 12 seconds. Like that cost me $60.
Or just bit off someone's ear.
Yeah. 97, baby.
Yeah. I remember. I still remember that one. Everyone talking. Did you see he fucking bit off the guy's ear? Yeah.
Yeah, the only sport I don't really get into, and I guess it's just my American coming out, is soccer. I just
my stepson's into soccer. Yeah. He's into soccer. That's about it. But I go to like his games and his practices, but that's about it. I don't care about professional soccer. Right. I'm just like kicking a ball around. You mean just like every other sport where you use your foot and kick a ball? Or you use your hands and throw a ball. I look at it as there's more important things you could be doing. But that's just me. Sorry.
Hey, Chief, how about this new sport we got here in America where people tackle each other and they try to get down the field with the ball? Well, what do you think we should call it? Well, there's this sport in Europe called football. And what do they call it?
Spell it with a U, though.
Yeah. It's because they kick a ball around a whole bunch. It's like, we should call our sport that too. Well, isn't kicking the ball only like 10% of the sport? Yeah.
What if we call it kickball?
Well, I don't want to call it throw ball. That sounds stupid.
Throw ball.
Or run ball.
What about laser ball? Yeah. But no, I don't really care. But just final thoughts on this movie. I enjoyed it. I didn't think I was going to, just because I was not really into hadn't seen the first two, and now I actually am going back in and watching the first two. I watched the first one. I have to see the second one still. And I really do hope that this is the end. I hope this is the final one.
Me too.
I know that money won't allow that one to happen, though.
Well, and not just like from the producers or anything. I mean, Michael B. Jordan, he got 2 paychecks for this one, for director and and Star, like he's probably kind of like, yeah, let's do another one. Money.
Well, I really want to see what he does next as a director, because he clearly has a talent for it.
Yeah.
And that's something that no one really knew about him doing. Like no one knew that he was also going to be directing stuff. But he clearly has a style that is way more personal. And I think if he sticks with movies that are very much with like really focusing on one character's journey and dealing with some of those personal things that happen to that character, because I think that's the one thing that Ryan Coogler, probably butchered his name, did really well, is that he has a way of being able to balance multiple character arcs within a movie. Like you see Creed 1, you've got Rocky's arc, you've got Adonis's arc, you've got Bianca's arc, and even in like the Black Panther movies, he knows how to balance these multiple characters well. Not talking about Wakanda Forever,
but yeah,
you're
more
clearly
the first
problems.
one. Yeah,
but I'm talking about the first one.
Yeah,
and that takes practice. It takes talent. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does next. If it is another Creed movie or just something else, because he clearly has a talent for directing.
Wait, we're fighting with the Russians again. Maybe like Creed 4 will be him fighting like a Russian.
It'll be him fighting Putin.
Well, no, there'll be a Ukrainian fighter that the Russian kills, and then Creed's gonna be like, I can't stand for this, and he'll put on the same like American trunks that his dad had. You
gotta wear your dad's American trunks. You gotta fight another Russian. Slash.
Everything
Ukrainian
comes full circle.
Everyone comes full circle. We're still in the same mess, folks. We're at Creed 4.
You got some guy who's like a Putin lookalike, but they don't even call him Putin because they don't want to get in trouble.
Yeah,
like
because movies play in Russia too. That's why
he's just the premier. They don't give him a name. Yeah,
because that's exactly what they did in Rocky 3 or 4, didn't they? They didn't even like call them like their names. They just looked.
Yeah,
like didn't the premier look like Gorbachev?
Yeah, it's like,
and
you want to get sued? Don't call him by name. Yeah,
don't call him. Just the premier's here with the same like birthmark on his head that Gorbachev looks like. Oh yeah. Well, it was a good talk, and I'm glad that we weren't like F-bombing the whole time. Even though I know we do, but like it's good every once in a while to like do some serious film talk.
Fuckity fuck.
Fuckity fuck.
And boogers. And ass. There we go.
There you go. You got our quota, John.
Yeah.
So, John, where can they find you at on the internet?
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and over at JDubs Video Nasties. I've got so many questions coming out about the mask.
Oh, the mask or mask?
The Jim Carrey one.
Oh, God.
Yeah, not man. Not Eric Roberts.
That's no. I know what you're talking about.
With Cher.
With Cher. Yeah, the weird like deformed face.
Eric Stahl.
That's Eric Stahl.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, the mask. Oh, I'm curious about that one. Can you give me a hint? Can you give us like a little sneak peek?
His powers don't make any sense, and nobody seems to be bothered by the fact this man's a god. Brian, what would you do as a cop if you went freeze and a man in midair turned into an icicle and stayed in midair?
And he then said, "You told me to freeze."
I don't think you would be like, man, this guy's annoying me. Man.
No, well, let's be honest here. Edge City is a ridiculous place that literally is at the edge of hell.
Yeah.
Like, it totally does. And honestly, like, that should be a movie we should tackle one of these days, The Mask. Because there's a lot of problems with it. But yeah, I'm glad you're tackling that one because it's a fun one. But you can find me at Brian Coddington on Twitter, as well as at the Psycho Show. I also run the Psycho Show page. Get my words all mixed up. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Psycho Show. You can also find us on the TikToks at Cinema Psycho Show. As I mentioned before, you can also hang out with us on Discord. John, you're still not on Discord.
I know, it's almost like I feel like I can't come on now because it's
almost
like a reoccurring joke.
It's almost like You don't want to be on the Discord, John. Do you not want to hang out with our fans?
I don't want to be discordant. I don't.
You just want to be discordant. But you all should do it. If John won't do it, I'll be there.
I'm going to look into it tonight.
Go look into it tonight. You can find the link to our Discord channel in the show notes for this episode. Also, if you don't want to do that, that's okay too. We know some people don't like to do the Discord thing. Contact us at cinemapsychoshow.com. I actually recently just did a little bit of house cleaning. Jesus Christ. House cleaning.
It's that part of the show.
Well, it's 11:19 at night. That's why. House cleaning on our website a little bit. So I'm trying to spruce it up a bit and make it not as shitty looking. One of these years, we got to get like an actual real web designer. If anyone listens,
I think our website looks good though, but
I know, but like I see other podcast websites. I'm like, we need to get a better looking website. But anyway, cinemapsychoshow.com. Contact us there. Be sure to follow us and listen to us wherever you listen to podcasts. We are everywhere, quite literally everywhere. And we will see you next time.
Creed 4, punching Putin.
Punch and Putin.